All right, you guys. Thank you all for being here this morning. I know it's early, so I'm honored that all of you got up this morning to go out here and have a conversation. So we're going to get started really soon. If there's any open seats, please fill them in. I would like for people to be comfortable. And yeah, we're going to get started shortly. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can we please have all media to the left side of the room? And if you are not media, we need to take a seat quickly. This side, near the where it says exit.
Our right, left.
I'm sorry, my left, your right.
Okay.
So sorry.
Oh, careful, careful. A little tight over here. I like your shoes.
Go to the left. I'm just kidding.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Los Angeles. How you doing? Feeling good? Feeling good? You on time? We like that, we like that, we like that. So first, I want to say my name is Ray Cunningham. I am here representing the Source LA and those good brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Welcome to a community conversation with Mayor Karen Bass. And it's powered by the Source LA. Let's give it up for Rocsii. This is an intimate solutions-driven gathering where voices, your voices, will take center stage. Today is more than just a talk. It's about turning ideas into action. So this is a conversation which means not only will Rocsii be asking questions, you all can ask the mayor questions as well. But we're going to keep some order in here, okay? We got security in here, so we're going to keep some order, okay? All right. So we are deeply honored to have you here, Mayor Bass. You are a true public servant and history maker. You are the first woman and only second Black Angelino to lead their city. Okay? And you've been tackling some of LA's toughest issues with determination, and we are just excited to have you here with us this morning, okay? Are y'all giving it for Mayor Bass? And to my right, we have the lady of the hour as well, Miss Rocsii Woo. Y'all give it up for Miss Rocsii Woo. She's always working, she's making conversations. You give people jobs, you give them housing, funding. I love you. Okay, guys, so we're going to get the conversation started again. Rocsie's going to start off, and there will be a Q&A period where you guys can ask the mayor some questions. Let's keep it cute, okay? All right.
Good morning, everyone.
Woo!
Community Conversations with Mayor Bass. So just a couple of housekeeping rules. Like Ray said, we definitely want to keep it cute. If you don't know, you don't know, I'm a huge advocate and supporter of Mayor Bass. So we are here today for an important conversation. And I'm gonna ask a couple of questions rather, but I'm gonna keep it short because this is really about the community and this is really about you guys. So I know you guys have some questions. I know you guys may have some concerns, and she's here in the flesh, ready to answer those questions for you, okay? So I went to a house meeting, shout out to Marie with Violet Nayor. I went to her house meeting and it was amazing. I just couldn't believe how intimate the house meeting was. That's where I met Marissa. And I was like, how can I do one of these? Because the community relies on me so heavily about wanting to know certain things, right? And she said, girl, I've got you. And she set it up and we're here today. So shout out to Marissa. Thank you both for making this happen. This is so important for the community. Thank you for believing in me and for believing in my mission. So thank you. We're gonna dive right on in. All right, Mayor Bass. So for the first time ever, Los Angeles has experienced 2 consecutive years of declining homelessness. What key shifts in policy or approach do you believe made this possible? And how do you plan to sustain this momentum long term?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, and thank all of you for coming out on a Saturday morning. You could be doing a lot of things, you could be doing nothing, relaxing on Saturday morning, but instead you took time to come here. And it's been a long time since I've been here, but I love the gathering spot. I think it's one of the nicest places in our community. And I also love the development on Adams. It's like every time I pass by.
I can go more tighter shots.
Great, but I do want to call
But
out
I
two
gotta
people
swap
on
them.
my staff. Marissa. Oh, there she is. She's hiding. She's over there because she's working so hard. That's why she wasn't up front. But I just want to thank the two of you for putting this on. You knew that this was something I would really appreciate. And by the way, I love times like this. I love the opportunity to just have a frank conversation. I don't care what you ask me. I don't care what your opinions are. We can get real. And if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you. But give it up. So let me just say that I'm hoping now, after 2.5 years in this office, that people will actually believe why I ran. And I ran because of 46,000 people on our streets. I ran because Black folk are 9% of LA and over 30% of the people who are on our streets. To me, and then the other 40% are Latino. So homelessness is a Black and brown issue. My concern is that we were getting ready to go into another direction, a punitive direction. To me, the people on our streets, that is a humanitarian crisis. And so in my first day after I was sworn in, I declared a state of emergency, which allowed me to do a lot of things beyond my normal capacity as mayor, to expedite, to fast track, and to get people off the streets. And so that's what we've been doing. We have a team of folks. I'm not sure if anybody from the team is here, but we have about 18 people who go out. All of them have lived experience on some level: incarceration, homelessness, addiction, foster care, trafficking, you name it. And one of the things that we've proved in the last couple of years is that it's easy to get people off the streets. It's easy. Our people do not want to be on those streets. That is a myth.
That's right.
Now, I will tell you though, and all of you know this, there's a percentage of folks who are out there that are so profoundly ill, they don't even know they're out there. And that's a very small category. That's not the majority of folks. And so that the focus on street homelessness was really critical. But let me just tell you something. What I learned, and it took me a few months to learn this, I didn't realize that what I was doing was pissing people off, okay? It really has pissed people off because there is sentiment in this county amongst a lot of people that it's not a bad thing for people to be on the streets. That most importantly, we need to build affordable housing. Anything less than that, leave it alone. I am sorry, my people should never be on the streets. The nation's second largest city. In the richest country in the history of the world, in my opinion, the only people who rigidly follow that belief go home to a bed every night. Because I will never accept our people being on the street. So I didn't realize that I was pissing people off. And that has caused some challenges along the way. The other thing I didn't realize is that there's a whole lot of really stupid policies that keep people homeless or make people homeless.
Yes.
So I want to tell you too, and then, I can talk forever on this, so you have to stop it. I'll just stop at 2. I mean, this is so passionate for me because it just is. I mean, Phil, everybody know Phil Wilson. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Warrior, Phil. Phil and I go back too many decades. But we remember, and there's a lot of you in this audience who, since you were born, people have been on the streets. This is not, our people have not always slept on the streets. Okay, this is a relatively new phenomenon. But I think a lot of policies were old and maybe they made sense way back when. So in order for somebody to get housing, you have to prove your income. Well, if I've been in a tent for 5 years, how do I prove nothing? Well, I can't give you housing until you have a government issued ID. Well, if you would give me an address, I'd have a government issued ID. So people literally stay on the streets until they get a government issued ID and until they can prove nothing. So it took a lot of advocacy, but we got those policies changed. One of the worst policies is veterans homelessness. We had, at the beginning of this year, 3,000 vouchers for veterans that we wouldn't give to veterans. because if you were a veteran and you took the disability benefits, we counted that as your income. And then you said you made too much money. So rather than give you a voucher, we would keep the vouchers and they've just been sitting there. So that took a lot of advocacy. I got involved in the U.S. Conference of Mayors and I chaired the National Committee on Homelessness. So we took 100 mayors to DC, to the White House, to the House, and to the Senate. It took about a year, but we were able to get that waived. And that was under the Biden administration. And when I met with the VA secretary under Trump, you know, I spent 12 years in Congress, and fortunately, he was one of my colleagues. And so he has agreed to continue that policy. So now we're down to about 1,400 vouchers because we've been getting, you know, people housing. That's just a sample of a lot of policy. So this issue is complex. The other thing I have to mention is that I get tired of hearing people talk about substance abuse and mental illness. That's not, first of all, you can develop substance abuse and mental illness. You try sleeping on the streets for a month and tell me you're not medicated and your mental health has not deteriorated. There's a lot of people on the streets that are on the streets because they had diabetes, because they had cancer, because they had heart disease, they missed work, they lost their insurance, they lost their housing. So it's not just that everybody is on the street because they use drugs. So you better stop me now.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I just feel like that was so important to touch on as a, you know, formerly single homeless mom who was able to, you know, get on my feet, which is the reason why the Source of It was born. You know, that's a resource because I went through it. And so again, just want to thank you for that. We're going to slide over to the fires. The fires in Altadena and Palisades earlier this year left many residents shaken. What steps are being taken to ensure equitable disaster recovery for lower income residents who may not have insurance or access to temporary housing after events like this?
So let me just state for the record, I only represent Palisades.
Right.
So you never hear me talk about Altadena, and I always feel like I have to qualify that, especially amongst our folks. It's not that I don't care about Altadena, but I think a lot of people didn't realize that Altadena is not in the city of Los Angeles. It's not a city.
Right.
Altadena is like Lamert Park or Ladera Heights. It's an unincorporated area. And so they don't have a mayor or a city council. So you only hear me talk about the Palisades. And there's a lot of complications. Now, first of all, the recovery, meaning the removal of the debris and all of that, has happened at lightning speed. Ironically, because the Trump administration poured resources on us. So that went really fast. We had an unprecedented number of Army Corps of Engineers here, and they were able to do it like 6 to 12 months ahead of what happened in other fires. And then now the rebuilding process, what I did and was done on the county level too, is fast track the rebuilding. So try to remove every possible evidence of red tape so that people could get up and running fast. And so we have over 260 people who are ready to rebuild right now. People are putting up structures now. We have about 700 people in the queue. And when I'm referring to that, it's actually not people, it's 700 applications for permits. So we're moving through it. Challenges every step of the way, but things are progressing. The biggest stumbling block that I cannot address as mayor is insurance. So a lot of the insurance companies had canceled people before the fires. So a lot of people didn't have, any insurance. One thing I've learned as mayor though, I'm responsible for everything. I was like, why is it only 80 degrees today? It wasn't that way when I was in Congress. I gotta know what the congressperson does anyway. So I'm like, oh, what's the juice? Being asked why eggs cost so much.
And I think that's why this conversation is so important, because I be all in your comments, okay? And I be getting mad because I'm like, do you guys know what the mayor does? The haters.
The bots. One of these days I'll learn what a bot is. I know it's not real. But I will tell you, and you guys know because, I mean, I had a tough time in the beginning of the year. It was like, I didn't even go, there were some parts of town I didn't even go in. This part of town I was in all the time. I felt safe here. I didn't necessarily feel safe everywhere. But it was, you know, it was very tough. But I do understand though. I mean, sometimes you have to have levity. You know what I mean? You just do. I mean, that's how you mentally survive. But there's a lot that's obviously not fun. I mean, people lost their homes. They lost everything. And it wasn't just a house that they lost. They lost memories. They lost history. They lost a sense of belonging because they lost their community. And, you know, I really worry about Altadena because Altadena was one of our shining stars in transitioning wealth from one generation to the next. You know, my generation didn't do so well with that transfer, evidenced by Crenshaw, Lamert Park, a lot of those areas didn't pass on the wealth, but Altadena did. And some of that transfer didn't happen in a complete way. You know that. I'm living in my grandmother's house, but I never changed the title. And now it's a question of grandma's gone. How do I prove I was even supposed to be in that house? There's a lot of complications in Altadena that are not so much in Palisades. And so the income issue is different in Altadena as it is in Palisades too. Although Palisades was not 100% wealthy. You had a lot of seniors who paid off that mortgage that are on a fixed income and no ability to rebuild. You had people living in mobile homes. You had, there were a lot of renters in Palisades. So, you know, people were grieving. And I'm quite familiar with the grieving process. And part of that is anger. And people need to direct that anger. And so, you know, a lot of that was directed at me. I didn't take it personally because I understand what this process is. But my job was to try to move as fast as possible, but recognize even though I think we have moved fast, that doesn't help somebody to still have a house. Because if you talk about how fast it is, and I got a piece of dirt, you know? So you have to constantly keep that in mind. So I just wanted to say, I don't in any way, shape, or form take any of this lightly.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, when the fires happened, I think all of us were just trying to figure out what are we going to do? You know, how are we going to contribute? And I know a lot of people launched nonprofits and made me so proud. A lot of people came together, and like I said, I was in your comments, and I was like, you know what, we got to have this conversation. So thank you for that. I'm going to go to my last question because I do want to open it up for all of you. And this is happening, and it's just so devastating to see it unfold, you know, on social media, on the news. You recently signed a powerful executive directive to protect immigrant communities during ICE raids. Can you walk us through what that directive includes and why it was necessary?
Well, first of all, let's talk about it for a minute. What we're all going through right now, I want you to take note of, because you will remember this period 20, 30 years from now. This is really history unfolding, horrible history. This is the third time in U.S. history that you have federal intervention like this. The first time was the War of 1812. The second time was World War II, when they rounded up the Japanese. This is the third time. And what we had here that was unprecedented was the federal seizure of state power from a governor, federalizing the National Guard, deploying the military, like the Marines, who are trained to kill foreign enemies on foreign lands. They are not trained to deal with a protest in a city. And the way I describe, or I'm going to say, the way we were depicted around the country is that the whole city was on fire. Kind of like 1992. There's a lot of people here that don't remember 1992, but there's a lot of us that do. And a protest that happened over about a square mile, 4 blocks downtown, was nothing like 1992. To me, it was like a Laker victory plus. I mean, what happens? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was a peaceful protest, and at the end of the protest, you had melee, you had vandalism, you had some looting that happened one day, and then it was blown all up. So when we had these masked men in unmarked cars no license plate, tinted windows, no uniforms, jump out of cars and pull rifles on random people, you had a sense of terror and fear. So what I did in my executive directive was really directed toward the city workforce. So the city workforce would know how to address, if you are running one of our mini libraries, you need to know that you are within your rights to not allow ICE to come in, unless ICE has a warrant for a specific person that's there. So it was along those lines. Now, in that press conference, and this is what happens when you talk to the press, you better be very careful in what you say. So I mentioned something that actually has not been started yet, and it blew up like wildfire, which is called the Angelino card, which it will be a few $100s that goes to some of the families that feel they can't go back to work. That is not city money. That is not taxpayers' money, but a number of foundations got together, very similar to the fires, and said, we want to do this. And so they will be, the money will go to nonprofit organizations to distribute to immigrant families that feel that they cannot go out. But the sense of terror that people feel is just profound. And then the head of ICE said that one of their criteria was physical appearance. Now, all of us understand what that means. So if LA is 3.8 million people and about 50% Latino, that means 50% of the population of LA are now suspects. And you have Latinos who were born and raised here carrying their passports. Now that reminds me of South Africa. I remember when you had to carry a pass in South Africa. Or, in the South during US apartheid, AKA Jim Crow. And so we are going through a historical period with a rogue administration that, in my opinion, has treated LA like a petri dish. They're practicing on us, and they are showing the rest of the country, we're gonna come and kick butt in LA, and we're coming to you next. That, to me, is the message that's being sent today. Now, what I feel good about is that our country, our city has been united. You can imagine in some cities, people would be like, yeah, take them. I don't care how you get them, take them. Even though I'm sure there's people that might feel that way, there's no organized expression of that in this city. This city has stood united against what is happening. And mind you, in our community, we understand that there are Black immigrants. I mean, Belize, where do you think Belize is? Belize is in Central America. Key, and if you look at the raids that are happening in Florida, they look exactly like here, except they're all Haitian. So we have to understand that we have a vibrant Black immigrant community that is under threat as well.
And I think you said something really important about be careful what you say to the media, right? Press. That's why we're here today. So I know some of you have a press badge on or a media badge. It is so important that we tell our narrative, right? We tell our story, because if we just slip in Fox News and CNN and we're just going off of what they're saying, that's why we got the conversations that we do have in her comments, right? And so this conversation was so important because I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to come hear it from her and to also share it. This is so very important. I can't do it by myself. I need your guys' help with sharing these stories and getting these stories out. So we're gonna open it up to the audience for some questions. I think we need another microphone. There you go. Thank you.
Now, you know what I do if you guys are okay with this? I like to make sure everybody gets to ask a question. So I take notes and I'll take like 10 questions at a time. If that's okay? And you know what, too? If you don't have a question and you just want to make a statement, that's fine. Otherwise, people who wrote these contortions, they really don't want to ask a question, they just want to make a statement. And they force themselves to get into a question. So, whatever you want to say. Why are you laughing, Tiffany?
Please say your name when you say your question. Who you are.
Hello, good morning, Mayor Bass. My name is Anu Hughes.
and it's AMOURDELUS. First and foremost, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you do. As a Black woman, I am so proud of what you do in your services, your strength, your fearlessness, and what you do for this community. But my organization, the Malik Woo Foundation, I feel thank yellow. Our question to you is in reference to mental health, and you kind of tap into it a little bit, but we're the prevention part of it, and we'd like very much to get your point of view and the mental health of the people today and what they're going through, and their hurts, their pain, and how they're grieving. We feel that the Malik Woo Foundation can be an advocate. The community. We talk about the community. We talk about us. Our surroundings. Because it's also suicide prevention, and a lot of times we sweep it under the rug. And so I just like to see what it is that that your point of view and how we can better serve, because our motto is it's okay not to be okay. That suicide is not the answer. So I'd just like to hear your point of view and how we can better serve our community and the Black community, and how we can make a difference and make an impact. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go on this side.
I just want to make a statement. Franco Vega, Executive Director. Thank you, Mayor Bass. I want to personally thank you for housing over 20 current and former fosters and shedding light.
Right here. Are you guys on that side or? No. Oh, no.
Hello, Mayor Bass. How you doing, Mayor Bass? Man David from the radio show. Quick question for you. As far as, I said, you kind of addressed it a little earlier, but I wanted to know, like, eventually, people that look like us are going to be the target. How do we go about preparing for that? And also, as far as that project downtown, like the building that got looted, what is the status on that? How many people are going to be placed in that building?
Okay, go on that side.
Good morning. My name is Phil Wilson, and I actually have a statement. I want to thank you, Mayor Bass, for your description of what's going on with ICE. We talk about this as an immigrant problem. James Baldwin said, when they come for you in the morning, they come for me in the evening. And we need to be clear, and I'm glad you pointed out, not all immigrants are Latino. And they're picking up U.S. citizens,
Right.
And that, so this is already our problem, that we are, being picked up as well, because this is very much a Black and a brown issue. And so this is not a charity issue for us. This is about us right now. We need to be clear about that when we see these issues and these stories come up, that we think that it's about someone else, and it's not about someone else, it's about us.
Okay, take it right here. No, I'm gonna take it right here.
Okay. I don't know if you can see me back here, Mayor Harris. My question to you is for those of us who work with community organizers, as we're barreling towards authoritarianism as a nation, what would you say we do at the local level? Because as somebody who's a native, third generation here, not only do we remember 1992, we also remember when they wiped us out for freeways, right? So as we're seeing what's happening both at a national and a local level, how do we stay grounded? How do we stay vigilant? And how can we still remain faithful in our local government when clearly they're not playing by any rules?
Hey, Kyrie Walton, and I'm glad that we're on the same topic. So my question is also about this topic. As people have already said, we know that ultimately we're going to be affected by this as well, these ICE raids. So my question is multi-pronged. What is the city doing in terms of making sure that everyone knows their rights? Like, I got trained months ago because I knew this was coming to be a Know Your Rights trainer and have been doing that. But what is the city doing specifically? Also, what do you advise us to be doing right now so that Black people are prepared when they start rounding us up, because we know that slavery is not illegal in this country. And we know that they're laying the groundwork for slavery. That's what alligator Alcatraz is. That's why they have so many friends who profit off of prison. So we know that that's laying the groundwork, because once you round up people who get our food in farms, who's going to get that? And we know that the president already has said that he would make the quote unquote owners responsible. He literally said that after the Supreme Court passed the birthright, thing that they passed, where he can now choose to deport people who were born here. And so what do we need to be doing? Other question is, what are we doing to make sure LAPD is stopping kidnappings versus helping them? And also, with all of this happening, the world is looking at LA and like, we don't want to go there for FIFA or the Olympics. If they're trying to make this the battleground and they are obviously not Americans. So what are we doing to make sure that this is still a place people want to come for FIFA World Cup and the Olympics? Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go on this side. We want to get to all the questions, so if you guys can limit to one question per person.
Sorry.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Craig Bowers. I'm a small business owner in the city. And every elected official always talks about small business are the job creators in a local economy. But it seems to me our conversation is always reactionary. A fire happens, we're gonna fast track housing. Housing crisis happens, we're gonna fast track affordable housing. But I think what often gets lost on people, there's only a finite amount of people in the bureaucracy that we can fast track. And everybody else is just left with, dealing with understaffed resources on behalf of the city. I've done battle with LADBS, LA Planning, LA Workforce Economic Development Department. I think we've got, there's a Rick Cole article interviewed Rick Cole in the LA Times this week on the third generation Angelino. I really think we've got to figure out some long-term, processes to how to make the city function better. And unfortunately, I think a lot of those things can't really happen in the one term of a mayor's term. But I do think we can go in a direction in which we can improve the city, because if we improve small business, then we can improve the economic realities of so many of our citizens here. So I just say that as a statement and a question, but just leave you with that.
Hello. I'm gonna try to make this really small. My name is Joshua Hammond from South Central. Shout out Karen Bass. I'm an alumni of your program community coalition. Got socialized through that. Man, I think this is a question for everyone, really. I'm from the inner city, and I see a lot of stuff that's been going on in the community. I'm in the mental health space as well, so I think a lot of our stuff is rooted in trauma, and I would love for us to come together. I'm trying to get some community buy-in. So I'm thinking about a CFR or DC. I see what happened in Altadena, and I feel like, how much do we care about our neighbor as Black people? I feel like we don't show up enough. I feel like we don't support each other enough. We spend over $2 trillion a year as Black people. We have the economic power to come together and band together. We can talk about policy, community, equity, all we want, but if we don't trust each other and show up for each other, none of that stuff matters, you guys. I want us to be able to show up in a real way. We should be able to get community buy-in where a community burns down. We should be able to go to our local community center or banking system and be able to support that Black family, incubate that Black family, and teach them how to be sustainable, right? So if they get a low equity loan with us, we should be able to sustain that family and help them pay the loan back. They can be able to build their own house back up. I feel like we need saving for people that don't look like us. I could be wrong. And I want us to be able to save ourselves. I want us to be able to show up for ourselves, talk to our neighbor, and build community in a real way. We have the money in this space. If everybody just had a subscription model, we gave $10 right now. We gonna spend it on Starbucks and something else. So we cannot say we have the money. I personally feel, this is a high statement, that we should have to go to government to build up communities, y'all. We keep looking for outside resources to come save us, and they're never coming. They're taking our people to jail. They're incarcerating people. They have very partial policies to make sure that we are being pushed to these systems that's not going to support us. I'm coming from this by my mom. I'm coming Afro-Latino too. My mom had to get a green card too. And they're not looking to come and save us. We need to save ourselves. We need to come together. So when it comes next, who's going to put their money up to make sure that our friend gets their house rebuilt? We can do GoFundMe all we want, but we have no governance system to show up for Black people. We need to incubate ourselves, what they did in the 1920s, and they blew that up. How are we gonna recreate that right here so we can be the model, since we're the biggest city in the country? Let's be that auxiliary example for the rest of the world so that we can come and band together. Let's repurpose our dollars.
Mayor Bass, DJ the regular day, with Sirius XM Horticulture Radio Channel 140. I have been in a unique space here because number one, well, let me just first say this. I'm so happy to know I'm not the only person that pisses people off. Okay, trying to change some things. So that encouraged me as a young Latina trying to get things done and an LA native. But God put me in a very unique place of having a gospel hip hop radio show on Sirius XM. So my crowd is more of like a purple. It's red, blue, right? I'm so tired of people thinking just because we're Christian, we don't care about the people anymore. We're just pro-Trump and we don't really care. As a Latina in LA, it's so important to me. But because I have this power on Sirius XM, 220,000 listeners every morning, what would you have me tell them that you are doing, and how important is your faith when you're tackling things like homelessness, when you're tackling things like kicking them out, which thank you, by the way, I saw you kick them out of a space where they shouldn't have been. I'm afraid, so I got your back. And so I really appreciate you do that because I'm in an also unique place being a very light skin. They realize when they let me in the room, they messed up because I am Mexican, okay? But I have a shirt for you that says Bass Loves LA, because I know you do, so I'm gonna give that to you before we leave. But what would you say, encourages us people of faith to, what can I tell my people who are listening that you are doing, how that influences you? I'm gonna do two more, here, one more over here.
Okay, can we make sure that these are actual questions while we have the mayor here?
Statements are welcome as well. Okay, we're gonna do one more over here and I'm gonna do this.
Hi, my name is Kathy J. Hood. I run a PR public outreach firm. I'm also on the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council, and Shine LA is just a meaningful initiative. So my question with Shine LA is, I know you guys are going through budget cuts. I know a lot of the initiative is leaning on the community partners. Could there be synergy of creating a committee or a commission board dedicated to beautification projects and cleanups? Right now, there's like a lot of committees for homelessness and other topics, but there could be something for beautification.
Thank you. We're gonna do one more.
Good morning, Mayor Bass. My name is Raquel Bowman. I'm right. Raquel Bowman and Marissa Bowman, so I'm gonna make it quick. I am the Associate Director of STEM for a program called Black College Success. It's an initiative of the LA Promise Fund. We support Black students in LA, getting them to college and through college, ensuring they persist. So my question to you is, what is the city doing to invest in early intervention for youth to prevent homelessness in the area? Thank you.
We'll let you take it over. Okay.
There's almost 3 pages of notes. I won't miss again. But you were the first one. Amor, you know amor. You were asking about mental health prevention and how are people feeling. I think since the first of the year, it's been a wave. People have been on an emotional roller coaster. I think that so many people, if they were not directly impacted by the virus, they know somebody who was. And they're watching their family member or their friend on that roller coaster of grief, which has them going up and down. Suicide, what really worries me is that I have friends, I think I can think of 3 mom and dads who lost their Black sons to suicide in their late teens or early 20s in the last couple of years. It is a big issue in our community that is not talked about. And it makes me feel so sad because the mental health safety net here is so shaky. And, you know, voters passed an initiative to really increase mental health facilities. And we all voted for it at the beginning of last year, March of last year. But they still are barely breaking ground, if any place, right now. So I feel like the money is there, the resources are coming, but they haven't arrived. And in the meantime, people's lives are threatened. And we have to resort to kind of self-help situations, which we know now so much more is needed. And then one thing that's important too is to distinguish responsibility. So I do take responsibility, even though it is not the city's responsibility. So that check that's coming ain't coming to me. It's not coming to the city, it's in the county. But we do collaborate because you can't really address our community unless you collaborate on every level of government. Franco, you mentioned housing. And this addressed actually the last question, which is about early intervention for youth to prevent homelessness. Well, the population that is most at risk to be homeless, and this is an example of how policy makes people homeless. Right now, it's viewed in the general public as if it's your fault that you're homeless. There's something that you did wrong. You made bad decisions in your life. People don't think about the systemic reasons, the systemic factors that push people on the street. So listen to this one. And you guys know this, but think about it. When you're in the foster care system cuts you off when you're either 18 or 21. And it's called emancipation, which even that word makes me mad. Because I don't care who you are in this room, if you are very wealthy, your 18-year-old cannot survive on their own without texting you, without you selling them whatever they need, whenever they need it. And when things don't work out, they can come home to you. So what we do by policy to kids in the foster care system is we basically pack up their bags and put them on the street. But then you have community heroes like Franco and what he does on a day-to-day basis, saving our young people. And so we even know their names, addresses, and phone numbers, and we still, do this. By the way, you and I should talk about Ernesto. I've been one of the young men that we've worked with for years since he was just out of his teens, was recently shot. And I know we've been tracking him. Once in my life, you're always in my life. So anyway, so what happens when Black folks are targeted? And, there was the building that was looted. It was a store. So there was no building that was looted that could then house people. I know that was a question that came up over here. So that the looting took place, really, there were 2 incidences of looting on 2 different days. And then I imposed a curfew. But the looting that took place, it was businesses. I think it was a shoe store, a clothing store, and they attempted a jewelry store, but I'm not sure they got in there. Phil, thank you so much. When you talked about when they come for you, they're gonna come for us. But now think about it now. They came for us on the day he took over. Okay, yes. The first thing they went into was DEI code Black. Even though we know diversity, equity, and inclusion applies even beyond race, it applies to sexual orientation, disability, etc. However, the focus was on us. Yes. He just summarily went through and fired people. The head of the military, the head of the Library of Congress, summarily did that. Now that coincided with the fires. It also coincided with me too, because when I was on my way back from Ghana, which was interesting about Ghana, because a few days before I left, it was big news I was going to Ghana, because the White House had issued a press release announcing that I had been asked to participate in the presidential delegation for the inauguration of the named president. However, that got so distorted that by the time I landed, I was over there partying, and that I was the DEI mayor. And then by the time he came in office, it was, you talk about, that wasn't even the comments, those were the headlines. The only reason why I won my election is because liberal white folks felt guilty. They knew they should have voted for the man who was more qualified, but since they wanted to be so woke, they decided to vote for the diversity hat. So they already came for us. And they still come. But point well taken is that we don't know where this is gonna go. So one of the things that I would recommend that we should do, and we kind of do this and know this, but I think we need to celebrate our diversity amongst Black folks more. I don't think when we think of Belizeans, we think of them as being Latino. Well, where's Belize? It's Central America. Latin America, last time I checked, they more Black people in Brazil than there are in the United States. So even our Ethiopian community, Jamaica, Nigeria, I mean, you name it, we have such diversity, and I think that lifting up the diversity and all standing together and recognizing that it's, what do we used to call it, same struggle, many fronts. The struggle is about justice. Injustice manifests itself in a variety of ways, but if you're truly about justice, then you fight injustice wherever it lands. Because you know that our strength, and all you gotta do is do the math. If we 9% of the population, Latinos are 50% of the population, Asians are about 25% of the population, who controls this area? It's folks of color. And so we need to band together. Ms. Harris, I didn't get your first name. Okay. I heard you back there. You wanted to know about the fact that our trajectory seems to be toward authoritarianism. So the way I would describe that, the way it's manifesting itself now, is we are supposed to have 3 independent branches, co-equal branches of government. We have the judiciary, we have the legislative branch, the House and the Senate, and then we have the executive branch. In my opinion, we really only have one branch of government now, because the judiciary was fundamentally changed in his first term. The legislative, you have the Speaker of the House and the head of the Senate, who went over to Pennsylvania Avenue and handed in their gavel and said, "You tell us what to do, boss." So really, power right now is all concentrated on the executive. The way out of that is that we have to take these seats back. It's going to be much harder to take the Senate back next year because the math doesn't work, but we should easily take the House back. And if we take the House back, then we can stop certain things. I know people are frustrated with Democrats in the House, and I have a lot of empathy for that, because I think that our folks don't understand how you have absolutely no power as the minority. Hakeem Jeffries, who will be the first Black speaker when power does change, he can't even speak on the floor of the House of Representatives without permission. So we have expectations of what Democrats can do in Congress without actually recognizing that the rules say right now Democrats can't do anything. But we can fight, we can struggle. That's what we have always done, because we are unbelievably resilient people. Mrs. Wilson has what the city is doing specifically for people to know their rights. And that was actually part of my executive directive. We were doing it anyway, but I was trying to strengthen and expand it. So not just, the executive directives were directed toward the city families, city workers, but before that, we had a program of people knowing their rights for the general population. And we had been spreading that information on every platform and vehicle that we can. That is the most important thing we can do right now. And then making sure that when people want to come here, well, we'll talk about Shine and Way some more, but part of building our sense of community and our strength, we want to lift up and prepare our city for the world coming here. And we want to constantly verbalize, we want you to come here, we welcome you. And I think it's going to be important. We stood together, we showed the world that we are not going to accept nonsense. I think that sends a good signal to the world that this is a place that welcomes you no matter where you come from, but much more that we could do. You know, the LAPD, in terms of the raids and the kidnappings, well, first of all, we won a major court victory, and I hope it sticks. It's going to be appealed. So far, we've been a week with them not driving around like they were in the Wild Wild West. People off the street. That's because we use every vehicle to fight, whether it's knocking on doors and winning votes, whether it's peaceful protests, or whether it's the courts. We have to use every tool in our toolbox. The one tool that is not in our toolbox and will never be in our toolbox is violence. The minute people throw a brick or commit violence, you are telling the administration, that's why we need the military here. You are giving them an excuse. Don't take the bait. Anyway, the idea of LAPD intervening and stopping ICE or these masked men from doing what they're doing, we got to think about that for a minute, because it sounds reasonable on the surface, but then becomes extremely complicated. Because what you would have is, you would have two different branches of law enforcement fighting each other in the streets. And so we have to look at other ways to deal with this, because we can't have that either. So to me, the best way to deal with it is to stop the kidnapping from in the first place. And if there is going to be resistance, it needs to be peaceful resistance. But there was a problem where people were calling 911 because they saw a kidnapping. I mean, how do you distinguish that? You know, especially if they're masked, if there's no uniforms and all of that. So Craig, a small business owner. Craig, thank you very much. By the way, and we should follow up with you. There are a number of staff from my office here, and before we end, I want them to acknowledge and introduce themselves. But if you are having roadblocks in terms of getting in the city process, we would definitely like to be helpful. I read Rick Cole's article. I don't believe it's the doomsday that he points out, but I do believe, oh my God, after being here, I've only been here for a short period of time, 2.5 years. Woo, the level of dysfunction in the city, oh my God. I describe City Hall culture with 2 words, slow and no. I don't like either one of those words. But one thing that I would like to direct you to is that we are going to update our charter. And some of these things are written, and our charter is like the Constitution of the city. So that a lot of the dysfunction in the city is in the Constitution. And so, and I know you know that intimately, but we are beginning the charter reform process, and your voice is needed there. We have an opportunity to make change. Joshua was talking about how we don't show up enough, but Joshua, Coco, were you in Say Yeah?
Yes.
Say what? Say what? Say Yeah, South Central Youth Empowerment Action. One of my passions in life is the next generation, because I was so fortunate as a teenager, because I've been doing this since I was in middle school, okay? Nobody ever told me it was a job, though, so I worked in the medical field. I was like, oh, you get paid to do that? Get paid to be a disruptor? Anyway, Say Yeah was started to recruit and train the next generation of leaders. And I'm proud to say one of our first Say Yeah members, we recruited her when she was 14 years old. And she is now in her mid-40s, I guess. And she runs Inside Safe, so our homelessness program. So she went through the ranks, graduated, was working in labor for a while, but has dedicated her life to social change, just as I believe that you have as well. And so talking about people not showing up, and you're so right. We always think of our deficits as opposed to what our assets are. And we always think about what we don't have and what we're missing. And I remember in the early days when I started Community Coalition, which was 35 years ago, I remember we would do these community surveys, and I found out that a lot of the community members weren't even aware of the assets we had. Talked about, we need this, we need that, and so we wound up spending a lot of time telling people what we already had. And I think more of that is absolutely warranted. That's why I like this place so much. So we should all invest in the gatherings. J, you have asked what you should tell people about what we're doing. By the way, I'd love to come on your show. How about that? I'm telling myself. All right. Make that happen. But you know, I mean, the spiritual part of me is, but obviously it's rooted in, well, maybe not obviously, but certainly Christian beliefs in my church. But it's also rooted in our ancestors. And I take such great pride and strength. I'll tell you a story. After Trump won the first time and we were all devastated, you know, I mean, you talk about some mental health issues. Oh, yes. So what I did was I went to our museum. I call it our museum, the African American Museum in Washington. And how many people have been there? Oh, I love that. Nice. So you know the basement starts our journey. It's the 256 years of enslavement. So I went to the basement and I spent 3 hours. I read every exhibit, I watched every video, and I walked out of the museum like this. Because I said, what is my problem? I'm worried about somebody that's occupying across the street. And we've been through this for 256 years. Our ancestors survived this. And then after 256 years of enslavement, we survived 100 years of apartheid. And I'm worried about somebody that and I take such strength from that. There's such strength from the Middle Passage. And we are the result of that, which means we survived that. And all of the millions of people that didn't. So I stuck my chest out and I haven't put it back since. So Kathy J, you were talking about Shine LA. Thank you so much. You know, my job might be as mayor, but my heart is as a community organizer and activist. And so I always want to look for an activist element. There's a number of staff here today who serve as organizers in our community engagement department. And what I wanted to do as part of us preparing for the World Cup and the Olympics was to get the whole city involved. I don't want these events to happen only in some areas so that you come from around the world and you think LA is Beverly Hills, Hollywood, the beach, and that's it. I want people to know about the gatherings. I want people to know about Adams Avenue. I want people to know about Leimert Park, East LA, East San Fernando Valley, all of our areas, because we actually represent the world. I don't think there's a country on earth where there's not a diaspora that is here. And so Shine LA is about getting the whole city involved and for people not to be passive and wait for these games, but to participate in getting the city ready. Now, by the time the Olympics come, it is estimated that we'll need 50,000 volunteers. So part of Shine LA is also about recruiting that volunteer base. But I love the idea of what you said, a community-based committee that could help build Shine LA. So I think that that's something that we should definitely think about. And then the last question I think I addressed in the beginning, and that was about preventing young people from falling into homelessness. So did I cover you? Did I misrepresent anybody? All right, y'all ready for another round? Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're gonna take up a couple of questions. And please be brief, say your name, one question per person. Or statement, 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. It's Amy Emerson, former Olympian, Paralympian. Yes. And
don't just say that. You told me to be quick, Alice. I know that, but you gotta tell everybody what you just said.
Yeah.
Who you are, what your sport was.
So I'm an air pass. And I just want to say thank you. So ran track
here, was here in '84. Let's see a lot of my teammates, they'll be here, and it's such an honor, because I've known the fact that Mayor Bass has had. I'm going to speak quickly. She's looking at me. Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to say, so I ran track here with Percy, Jackie Joyner, Flojo, and all of them. I'm the first Paralympian. They're finally going to recognize. I keep telling everyone I'm 29, but anyway, that's a lot. But I want to say to you, you've been here. You have really been a great motivator for people around the world. And you all need to really get prepared. What Mayor Bass and the rest of this city has done to get the Olympics here is an experience that you'll not ever have again. The world will be here, the world. And everyone who's going to be participating throughout LA is really going to be an awesome experience. So I want to say thank you. I saw you in Paris. What you did with bringing that flag back here, it really does take LA to a high. Thank you so much.
We'll go to that side.
Hi, Mayor Bass. I'm Reggie Tucker Seeley, owner of Health Equity Strategies and Solutions, a health equity consulting and research company. What are the top 3 things that the healthcare delivery system can do to be a better partner to help you address homelessness in Los Angeles?
Please say your name, please.
Hello, Mayor Bass. My name's Kennedy. I'm a college student. And my question for you, I want to applaud you for facing tyranny and talking truth to power. I applaud you for that. I've watched just so much corruption, all that stuff going on, and we're watching democracy die in the open. How does the younger generation stay hopeful? Because I'm being honest, we are not hopeful right now. So my question is to you, how are we going to stay hopeful?
We're going to swing to the right.
Hello. Hey, how you doing, Mayor Karen Bass? Thank you, Rocsii, for having this event today. My name is Michael. We said we both previously was at Macedonia CDFI, which is a lot. And one of the issues that we kind of ran into was there was access to education for entrepreneurs. Sometimes in underserved areas, there's not enough access to the education that's needed for business owners actually to be successful. And I want to know which way is right now the city of Los Angeles addressing those issues.
Go ahead. Right here.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor Bass, thank you again today for hosting this community conversation. My name is Tiana, and I live in 991 LA, a safe space for community and culture pushers. And one of my questions today is, as a member of the community who lives and works here, there's often a disconnect between residents and policymakers. What do you see as the biggest blind spot between residents and the city government, and when it comes to understanding the community needs, and how are you addressing that? And secondly, how do you plan to hold federal agencies accountable and ensure transparency around these enforcement efforts?
Hello, Mayor Karen Bass. My name is Maisha Robinson. I'm the owner of the Brand Suite Agency in Los Angeles. And I wanted to make a statement because the young man brought up business education. I'm actually building a platform specifically for small business education in Los Angeles called the Ready Lab, in which helps you to be able to be ready for funding opportunities, grants and contracts through business education. So I'm bringing on subject matter experts to be able to provide those courses, micro learning, as well as deep learning tools for small businesses. So go to thereadylab.com.
I'm sorry, I want to get Tanita Ballard's question really quick right here. Come over here, Tanita.
Thank you, Rocsii. Hi, everybody. Hi, Karen Bass. My name is Tanita Ballard. I just wrapped up my fellowship with LA County, the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Department. I'm also an adjunct professor at USC, business owner, and I'm naming that because as Black women, many people in the room, we wear many different hats. But I advocate for us speaking up for ourselves and self-care. So my question is about Karen. When Karen's at home, how does she care for herself? And then secondly, how can we support you as
Hello, Mayor Bass. My name is Alton Petrie with Jungle Tiger TV. Thank you. We cover everything in the city, the good, the great, the bad, the evil. And I know that the stats say gang violence and overall gun violence is going down over the decades in LA. But here in South LA, I'm reporting on crime every day. And so my question is, what can we do to penetrate the culture of gangs, but without it being criminalized in terms of prevention? I have my thoughts and theories, but I would love to hear yours.
Good morning, Mayor Bass. Good morning, Rocsii, representing Flint, Michigan. Back there, homie. My name is Dr. Carrie Neal. I am the Chief Change Agent for this organization called Black Love Reimagined. I just recently completed my dissertation, and it talked about looking at the social and structural impediments that preclude Black men from entering the teaching profession. So there is research out of Johns Hopkins University that suggests just the presence of a Black male in the classroom, just the presence, doesn't say he had to be this brilliant teacher, just the presence dramatically closes the achievement gap with Black boys that continue to fall off the academic cliff. And we know that third and fourth grades was critical for literacy scores, and that information is used to project how they build prisons. So my question is, what are some intentional efforts that's taking place in the city of Los Angeles to recruit more Black men to enter the teaching profession? Thank you.
One more? Okay, this is the last one.
Good afternoon, Mayor Bass. My name is Trey Brown. I am the senior business coach at GSCDC. Thanks for coming over last year. Appreciate you. My question is, I have a background in tech, and what I do focus on a lot is artificial intelligence, helping the youth to kind of understand it as a tool and not to be so scared of it in our community. It's going to change the way we work and live in the next 3 to 5 years tremendously. We have been working with different vendors to kind of get the resources to optimize that, because what we've been able to see is that there's a lower cost for these students and or young individuals who want to start a business, don't necessarily know how to do it. And AI is such a tool that helps to maximize that, like nothing we've ever seen before. So my question is I know there's LA Optimized, I'm aware of that, but I was just curious as to if there are any more tools and or resources that we can use as a city to maximize the artificial intelligence transition for Black and brown children in the city.
One more on the co-side.
Hello, my name is Mark Sagan. I'm a community activist in Los Angeles from the Crenshaw area. My question is, I heard you speak on the homeless problem, and I think that a lot of times with individuals in our public sector and our political world, they aren't tapped into what's really like the boots on the ground. So I really want to know, what's the vetting process for these nonprofits that receive funding for work for nonprofit, for Skid Row for homelessness? Because most of the time, the organizations that's really on boots on the ground that I work with and a lot of other organizations work with never receive funding. They always have issues with getting funding, and the ones that come out probably once or twice a year for TV, they always have majority of the funding. And I know California and Los Angeles gave billions of dollars to help the homeless problem, but most of the people that are actually really working and doing the work for Los Angeles have no funding.
Yeah, right.
I know that's right.
I have to speak. Well, thank you, Mayor Bass, for being present. As a community, I speak for all of us. We appreciate your attendance today. You could have been anywhere doing something else, but you're here with us having this conversation. So shout out to you. Shout out to my beautiful wife. I'm about to ask a question that is not related to what anybody else has. So Mayor Bass, with Bitcoin
gaining global recognition as a decentralized and inflation-resistant asset. Would your administration consider exploring the creation of a small Bitcoin reserve for LA, similar to how cities like Lugano and regions like El Salvador have integrated it into their financial frameworks as a hedge against inflation and to potentially empower undeserved communities with financial access and education?
Well, you are correct, that's a different one.
I just shoot my shot. Thank you for allowing me to ask that question. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For our Olympiad, we are so proud of you, and I am proud that this will be the first time in 2028 that LA hosts the Paralympics. Yes. I can tell you, having gone to Paris and gone to both the Olympics and the Paralympics, I have to tell you, the Paralympics is really something. Both are inspiring, but I was more inspired by the Paralympians. The challenges that people have and still maintain athletic excellence is unbelievable. So we are very excited that you are here. So Reggie, you were asking what are the top 3 things that the healthcare system can do regarding homelessness. First of all, you pushed my button. In another life, I was a nurse, and then I was a PA. I trained in family medicine, worked at County General Hospital, and worked with people who were unhoused in the 80s. And I think that what happens is when we take someone from the street and put them in a motel, a community-based organization that the gentleman back there was referring to takes over. They provide 3 meals a day, security, and hopefully a visit, from a social worker. There's nothing there for health per se. I happen to believe that the minute you come off the streets, you need a full physical, including labs, and 3 areas that are consistently neglected are eyes, ears, and teeth. Yeah. And here we provide 3 meals a day, and I've seen situations where meals are passed out and people have no teeth. What are they supposed to do with the meals? Because you use meth too long, you lose all your teeth. Yes. And so no one pays attention to dental or eyes or hearing. So those are, to me, the top thing is a general physical, labs, and then those 3. And all of that is missing. Kennedy, you were talking about how to stay hopeful. I think that I got your name right. Yeah. Well, it goes back to what I was saying before. I hope that what will help give your generation hope is really becoming knowledgeable about who has come before you and what your responsibility is. I feel an unbelievable amount of responsibility, one, in this position, and then of course, holding up as a first woman, second African American. But all of us should feel the responsibilities of our past because we have been given the baton, and then our responsibility to future generations. But recognizing that you're on an emotional roller coaster through this. This is tough times. And so sometimes you might need to take a step back, but you can't take a step all the way back. And I worry about this notion that Black people are deciding, especially Black women, are deciding, well, look, we worked, we lost that election, we should have won, so now I'm just gonna worry about myself. I do think self-care is important, but you take care of yourself, but you got responsibility outside of yourself. And by the way, and I'll say this to everybody in general, because I do want to end by making a pitch, because I would like you to stay involved. I would not like this to be a one-off. I would love for you to invite me to do this kind of thing in your organization or your house, or because and especially, I don't want people to ever think that I ignore our community, because as I started, I'm here because of who's on the street. I'm here because of how crime has impacted our community. And so I started an Office of Community Safety, which is about crime prevention and intervention, because I believe in a comprehensive approach. This also addresses the gang culture that was spoken to a little bit later on, is that we have intervention workers. I've always believed in redemption and second chances and doing what we can to bring people who have been incarcerated back into the mainstream. Because one of the problems with mass incarceration is that while we were going through that era in the 90s, politicians passed all these laws that continue to block people when they get out. So it's like you serve a life sentence. Part of it you serve in jail, then you serve it the rest of your life, because you can't get a job, you can't get a place to live, you owe child support, all these barriers are put up that you will wander back into a life of crime unless there can be something that pulls you out and provides you second chances. So that was a big investment from my administration. I might not run around carrying a red, black, and green flag, but I'm very, very clear about how parts of my administration, small business is absolutely critical. So making sure that when these games come, that our community is able to benefit from the contracts, we know about the contracts, we push our business community, because when we survive and do well in business, then we hire our own. Sometimes not enough, but we do hire our own. And we do have opportunities for education around business. We have a whole economic development department and a lot of resources for small business within the city. But we don't have a ton of money. We do have a little money, but not a ton of it. But it's more access, especially to how you can contract in the public sector. And let me see, Michael, I answered that about business education. Tiana, the disconnect between, the blind spot between elected officials, how do you hold future agencies accountable? And, I think there is a blind spot a lot of times, and I do think it's critical to hold elected officials accountable. And the way to do that is in avenues like this. I happen to love this. Not everybody does, but I do. And I think that elected officials should do this, and you should call them to do this. And they should be able to tell you what they're working on, what their goals are, what legislation they are focused on. Maisha, well, you made your statement and you made your pitch. I think it was readylab.gov. Was that Maisha?
ReadyLab.gov.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. Otherwise you'd be in government. Tina, what do I do for self-care? What do I do to maintain my sanity? Oh, the I'm sorry. I try to get people's names right. That's what I'm saying. No, I'd like to say two things that I do love to do is swim and bike ride. I tend to have less of an opportunity to do that. And I only bike ride on the beach, by the way. I ain't riding on the track. That little white line. But I love this one. And by the way, family and friends are always important to me. I am never too important, never too busy for my friends and family. And especially, the young people I've worked with over the years, who I tell you are not young anymore. Some of them are, in their 40s. So I think I addressed the gang violence issue in our Office of Community Safety. Dr. Neal, you were talking about what are we doing to recruit African-American men as educators. Actually, I'm sorry to report on the city level, and we were not. The mayors of certain cities like New York and Chicago are in control of education. In Los Angeles, I actually have no role in education. It is something that I know, I appreciate. We do have a robust network of Black educators, though. We have Patrice, who is a member of the school board in Pasadena. Patrice actually said she will talk to you. She's on the school board in Pasadena, but she also, are you still working for a school board member in Los Angeles? So she could directly answer that question for you. And then Trey Brown, you talked about a business coach and AI focus. I think that's a wonderful idea and something that we could incorporate in the city. Will you start with me? Would you tell me about that? I'm trying to understand artificial intelligence. LA Optimize is your group. And then Marquise was asking about the vetting process for nonprofits. So, I would like to know what organizations that you're talking about. The city does some of that, but primarily the organizations that have the contracts are vetted by the county in the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. I think in the future that might change. We do some amount of vetting, but basically we issue the checks, but a lot of the contracts are actually with the county. But if there's some organizations that we are missing, I would definitely like to know about it. And I just don't know much about Bitcoin, so
Let's talk about it.
So two things, you got to teach me about artificial intelligence, and you got to teach me about Bitcoin. Sounds like I know it's me, I'm just joking. Like I said, you have to have levity. You want to know about self-care? Levity. Having fun with this. One of the things that I love about interacting with a group like this is just, we're dealing with serious stuff. But we can also do it in a joyful way. It is very, very important. So let me just, continue with that. Uh-oh.
And I've requested the mic several times, but it seems to disappear.
Well, you just took it.
I understand that. But here's my question. What are we doing about our seniors? We are all getting older, whether you believe it or not. I see seniors suffering. What are we doing?
Well, you are so right. Do you know that the fastest growing sector of the homeless population are seniors? Overwhelmingly Black women. And who worked in the service industries, no pension, maybe a 401k, the rent goes up, family's not there, and they're on the street. They tend to be the invisible homeless until they deteriorate so much that you see them on the street. So that is a big focus of the work around homeless. We do have a Department of Aging, and so we do have specific programs around seniors. Much more we could and should be doing. And we do some of this in collaboration with the county that has a much more robust Department of Aging than the city does. So appreciate that very much. So let me just say I mentioned that I would love to do this part of, obviously there's an election coming up, but I would like to, just in terms of grassroots participation, if you want to do a Zoom with me, if you want me to come to your community or neighborhood, please let me know. I would really like to do that. I would really like to appeal to you to promote on social media and to share my Instagram, or just promote. Were you guys gonna do that? Am I taking that? Well, you guys are.
I think Rocsii has some calls to action for your media. But continue.
Continue. Yeah. Actually, it's much better if it doesn't come from me. Especially the social media part. You'll clean that up for me. But participate in Shine LA. There's so much we need to do. And by the way, for the young woman, Tiana.
Yes. Oh,
Kennedy.
Yeah, good.
One of the most important things to do is do something physical. Yeah. Come to a Shine LA. Nothing restores your sense of purpose than being with a group of people that is doing something concrete. I have found over the years when people go through these slumps politically that we get out. The other thing I did after I came back from that museum is I started a group, what we did was we started working in 2017. In 2017, right when he came in, we went out every weekend door knocking, and we took 2 seats back. It was the Katie Porter and Katie Hill. And we went out and we did that. And that restored people's sense of hope.
The No Kings did that for me, I think, for sure.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank
More
you.
of that. And bring your friends.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm attending LMU, so I would love if you could come.
You want me to come down with you?
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
close to my heart. I'd be happy to come down.
Thank you, Mayor Bass.
All right, well, in regards to social media, please publish a reel, a feature, editorial, covering community conversations. Be sure to tag Mayor LA, Karen Bass LA, and use the hashtag Community with Karen Bass to join the citywide conversation. Again, forget the comments. Okay, let's show up in the comments. Let's do some fact checking, okay? Gracefully. But let's do some fact checking. Let's educate the bots and the haters. Okay? And the scapegoaters. But social media is really, really important. It's dear to my heart. Doing Law Pi, I realize what it is that I want to do, and I want to be I realize I want to be a political media consultant. Okay? So this is the start of that, right? And so before we end, I just want to definitely say some thank yous. I want to take a moment to extend, my deepest gratitude to you. I'm so thankful for you showing up today, you believing in my mission. Your leadership is so important to all of us, and I'm glad you guys were all here to witness this. I also want to thank my incredible team for making this event possible. You're going to keep hearing me talk about Marissa and Nicole, their dedication to this whole situation. My law practice is and at this time, I'd like to invite Marissa Bowman, Nicole, Dr. Ray, Krishanda Robinson, Sophia, Tanita, Michael, Deandra, and Chris to the stage.
Michael, where are you at? Come on. Yeah, come on. Yeah, come on here.
So I would like for you guys to give them a round of applause. Thank you so very much. I love giving people their flowers. It's just so very important to me. When you guys show up for me, I'm gonna show up for you. Okay, listen. Sophia. Alice. This is fun. Chris. Deandra. These are for you, Mayor Bass. You want to give me your flowers? Thank you all for everything. I appreciate you. This is just the beginning. This will be the last one. Please take advantage of the resources in the room. Please meet with Mayor Bass's team. Figure out how you can do this thing yourself. Okay? Yeah.
Thanks everybody for coming. I just want to highlight some of the people in the room. We have Andrea Green, in partnership with Mayor's Office of Infrastructure. We have Marion Inslee, she's from the Mayor's Office of Infrastructure. And then we have Chris Evans from the Mayor's Office of Community Safety.